Sponsored by The Comics Shop. We hope you enjoy the show.
And a good evening to another Tuesday Chinwag. My name is Leigh Chalker. I'm the creator of Battle for Bustle, and with a couple of mates of mine, Spedsy and Ben Sullivan and Ryan Vella, we created Ring Around the Rosie. So you can get all these things around in the universe. They're out and about. So I'm just going to drop into our very special guest this evening, Kieran Jack. Hello, bud. How are you? It's lovely to meet you.
Hey Leigh, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Pleasure, man. Pleasure. So before we get into Kieran, I didn't want to leave him out there hanging in the breeze and stuff, you know, and like you just troop over him with this little introduction and that. But today is a special day in comics because, you know, the captain of the ship is Mr. Shane Siddle. It's his birthday today. So before I get started, I just wanted to wish Shane a very happy birthday. I hope he's had a lovely day, and thank you very much for, you know, like Chinwag, you know, like just coming up on your birthday. So let's bring it home with, you know, some good energy and stuff like that, man. And I'm really excited about talking to Kieran. I also would like to say before we get started that tonight Chinwag is being broadcast, telecast, whatever, I don't know, live streamed, you know, like side by side, parallel, any word you can choose. If there's better words than that, just send in the comments and stuff. Hello, Nick May. Lovely to see your comments, bud. Hello, Dan. With Aussieverse. So you'll be able to watch Chinwag on Aussieverse. Now, if you are watching Chinwag on Aussieverse and you've never seen Chinwag before, Chinwag is a show, basically it's a comic book talk show, really, just to, you know, just to give it to you just straight. And it's based on 6 prompting words questions: who, what, where, when, why, and how. We tend to get to who, and then it just generally veers off into all manner of directions. I don't think there's been a show where we've got through the 6 questions because we've been too busy chinwagging. Hence is the fluidity of Chinwag. Hence is the enjoyment of it, because, you know, we don't know where it ever goes. So I do believe that's everything. I really must make a mental note to myself to write down some notes instead of doing this all ad lib every couple of weeks. But all right, now, Mr. Kieran Jack, I'm looking forward to this, mate, because you and I know of each other, but we have not had privilege of, oh, well, I haven't had the privilege of meeting you. You might think I'm a total drongo by the end of this, but hey, we don't know, so we'll just have to find out. And man, let's rock and roll.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show again, man. It's been I've watched the show for ages, so it's nice to actually be on here and to be able to talk to you for the first time. Like you said, I haven't really crossed paths with you, like with the drink and draws and the whole comics thing that's been going on for this last few years. So it's been great to be able to come on tonight and jump on and talk to you. So really excited.
Yeah, no, that's good, man. That's good. I like it's some good energy already in the green room and stuff like that. And, you know, we've got the energy candles burning, and, you know, I don't know what candles are burning in Scissor's house, you know, like, but there's something going on, man. It's a birthday, so, you know, rock and roll. So, man, we'll just get straight into, you know, like the who of it. But, you know, actually, I'm going to have a cigarette. And I'm going to let you control the narrative, mate, because, you know, this is part of the show. So,
yeah,
who
am I? What am I doing? What am I doing here? Look, I started back in the comics world probably about 8 years ago now, with a little podcast called The Halftone Effect, which kind of threw me in the deep end of like this little industry that was taking off in Australia. It had been going for years, but I don't know. I'd noticed it, and I kind of wanted to get involved and talk to those people and find out their worlds. And that was how I kind of got involved with it all. And at that point, I was kind of like, why am I not doing this? Like, I love comic books. I was reading the classic tales of Batman and Spider-Man and all that. And I'd grown a bit tired of it. It wasn't really for me anymore. And I found myself thinking, why don't I write my own stories? So I kind of went to the drawing board and kind of looked at my experience in the world and what can I talk about? What can I write about that my own experiences that could be interpreted into a comic book? And it's funny because I was a baker for 10 years and I thought, why not create a story about bread and the industry that I worked in and the, working early hours of the morning. There's some weird stuff that goes on in the bakery.
Yeah.
So could I interpret that into a my own story? So I just threw myself in the deep end and just went for it. And lo and behold, I had an audience there that were interested in reading my stories. And yeah, it was so surreal. It was just, okay, this is happening. I've made a comic book and it's out in the world and people enjoy it. So let's make another one. And here we are 8 years later. And it's like grown into this amalgamation of I think we're at nearly 30 different releases in our series that we've got, from Talking Bread right through to where we are today. So it's pretty incredible to come from there and look back on it all.
Well, you're a prolific little bugger, I'll tell you that. From what I've seen, every time I look, there's always something new coming out from you, man. So it's how old were you when you started apprentice? Did like young fella, like 14 sort of thing, or late teens?
What was that? Sorry, when did I start? Did you say? Sorry.
Yeah.
No, it was 25 when I started. Oh, sorry, baking. I started baking, about 14 years,
yeah, right.
14 years old.
Yeah.
Did a school-based apprenticeship, they called it back then.
Yeah.
I say back then, it's like early 2000s. But yeah, it was a school-based apprenticeship, and then it would accumulate the time off your apprenticeship when you went into full-time.
Yeah.
After getting out of school. So I finished up school and then jumped into an apprenticeship, and I think it was like a year and a half of the actual apprenticeship by the time I accumulated all that time whilst I was at school and whilst I was studying still at school. And then, I basically jumped out with my apprenticeship and then went into a bakery, came pretty close to getting my own bakery. And it was kind of it was an awakening. It wasn't really my thing. And I've always loved art and graphic design. And so I thought, screw it. I'm going to go and study graphic design at the age of 23, go back and study and learn that. And then once I graduated from graphic design degree, I basically put the final nail in the coffin for the baking and then walked away from it.
Yeah. But obviously the baking, look, I suppose we've all had jobs we haven't, enjoyed as much as, we possibly thought we'd have. And, sometimes you got to just have a job because, it pays the bills. I mean, there's nothing wrong with either. But there, when you were that little fella in school and you were starting with your baking, obviously you mentioned Batman. So there's one. I always love learning, the little influences and inclinations that when you're in your youth, that strike you, man. So while you had your own money, and I'm figuring it was big bucks back then, mate, $5 an hour or something like that. Good evening, Rick. Thanks for watching. What did you think? What pulled the heartstrings, man, to when you went to the comic book shop, and
it was funny because I grew up in a small town, so it was only what was limited to the newsagents. So we had Phantom, and there was Batman. So it was Batman and Detective Comics, Action Comics, and then there was, I'm going to say it was Ultimate Spider-Man at the time. Yeah. So it was very limited by what you get. Of course, there was Mad Comics and Mad Magazine and 2000 AD. So those were the other ones as well. But so it was very limited by what I could get my hands on. So whenever I would go to Melbourne or Sydney, it'd be kind of what can I get, and get friends to pick up stuff for me if they can. So lots of Batman Detective Comics, lots of Phantom Comics. It was just whatever I could get my hands on, really. And you're right, that small wage I was getting was going on comic books. I was getting as many as I could. But look, there's a few in the collection I've got now. I look back on them. I've got most of Jim Lee's Hush run. and Jeff Loeb's one. That's got to be one of my favorites. I think it's because of the nostalgia of the time that I was reading it at, 2003, I think it was, around that time. But stuff like that, detective comics, I was all over it, and just whatever I could get my hands on. I'm pretty sure the newsagents grew tired of me coming in every week going, what do you got next? What's there? Now I do that to the comic book stores around Australia. Like, what do you got? I want to read.
I'm looking over your left shoulder there, mate, and I'm looking at your bookshelf. I'm thinking you might be in the market to get a second one there, I'm assuming.
It's starting to get pretty scary, the amount of comics I've gone, there's probably a bit too many there. But
yeah, they piled up on the floor, yeah? You got them holding up the tables and stuff?
They're getting close. No, not sitting on them yet. The studio has become very crowded, especially when you've got your own stock to take care of as well. You've got to try and manage that as well.
Indeed. Mate, I'm just going to interrupt you there for a second, because Sean Keenan just said a comment that there's a lot of hair on this show. And like Kieran and I were just talking about how, like our stylists have obviously, worked very closely together over the years, mate. So bringing you a bit more of a slipstreamed chinwag this evening. I'm a little bit rough around the edges, but, hey, this is just what happens. Actually, you know what's funny, man? Actually getting on the hair, and this is the divergence, people, of chinwag. So we'll get back to what Kieran said. It's all a circle, man. So you know how it is.
Yeah.
You sent me that photo for the banner the other day, man. And like I saw you last, and you had hair, and like you looked like you, but you had
just with hair, yeah.
Damn, it was there, hey, I did too. Don't feel bad, And then you sent me that photo, and I was looking, and I thought to myself, man, he looks, what? We're going to, people don't get what's going on here. It's going to be like Kieran and Leigh could do a mirror image of each other. So, I thought I'd better, chuck some growth on here, see the difference, But then I realized you had tattoos, mate. So then I was thinking, hey, we'll be all right here. Anyway, people will tell the difference. So you're probably far more articulate than I am, so that'll work well for you.
Not at all.
Getting back to I like that. A lot of people that I talk to, their influences when they're young come from lots of different areas. Like some people get into cartoons and movies when they're young, and that lead, they strike a liking with the Batman movies, leads to comics, all parts, everyone's got one. Now, you haven't really mentioned anything like cartoons or movies at this stage. So you genuinely, young fella, liked your comic books?
Yeah, I've got my auntie to blame for this, because she actually bought my first comic for me when I was a 3-year-old. And 3-year-olds don't exactly know what a comic book is at the time, but they know what Batman is. So it was, I'm going to stuff this up, but it was like Batman issue 634 or something. It was with Scarecrow and Batman. He has Scarecrow tied up with spiders crawling all over him, Robin's in the window. So it was my first comic. I've never forgotten it, and she bought it for me, and I cherished it for a long time. And then, being a 10-year-old, probably lost it in a backpack or at school or something like that. But yeah, I had a fondness for comic books at a very early age. I remember getting a copy of the Batman '89 comic book. Getting Phantom comic books whenever there was a local show on. I'd have the show bag full of the Phantom comics. Sprawled out in my room, reading them, clippings from newspapers, the old, strips from the newspapers, whatever I could really get my hands onto.
Yeah.
So comics have been a really big influence in my life before, TV or film were really there. I've got a very fondness for both those formats of media, but comic books are where it's really at for me. So yeah, that's I don't know how many people have got to get a comic book at 3-year-old, but it's something that I consistently tell her about every time I see her, and we talk about the comics and how it's all going. And I always say, it's you that got me onto this path, led me down this rabbit hole that I'm down now, creating comic books. So yeah, that's where it all started, really, with the comic book.
No, that's a good
obsession.
thing, man. Yeah, no, I like it. Similar trajectory to me, mate. Very young, here, have a comic book, entertain yourself, like,
Mm.
like suddenly it's like magic, and then dad, comic book, like
Yeah.
it just all, man, I'd never really, I don't know. You do dabble in these things, and this is my wingman, Kieran. He's with me all the time. This is Lloyd. Everyone say good day to Lloyd. He's my buddy. He's always down here. He likes getting on camera more than I do, mate.
Yeah.
You don't probably see him 3 or 4 times. Tell you what, vain little bugger. But anyway, I wonder where he gets that from, really. But yeah, man, comics. I like that. With the So Batman 89, so like 1989 sort of thing. So we're, not so old. Like, I mean, it was in my lifetime.
Yeah.
That puts it around the Norm Brayfogle and Alan Grant sort of era of Batman comic, I would assume.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Batman and Alan Grant stuff, because
I'm gonna try and see what I can find.
Batman, dude, man. I love Norm Brayfogle's Batman. That, to me, when I saw that as a kid, was like, oh man, I like that Batman. I wish someone would put that, like onto a movie. That would blow my mind, man. Like
it's such a distinct style as well. Such a distinct style. It's you bang on the buck there when you come to who it was and who was writing and illustrating on those comics. Yeah. It's funny. Like, I actually had to trace them back and get them back in my collection for that reason. So I've got them behind me somewhere in here in this mess.
Yeah.
Bagged and boarded, and I cherish them. I really do. They're very special to me. I really do appreciate my auntie giving them to me as a young child and kind of hooking me leading me down the path of being a comic book creator.
I think that's beautiful. Would your auntie be watching tonight? Would you like to give auntie a shout out, or maybe,
I don't know. She should be. Hey, Amanda, if you're watching, thank you for this, and thank you for leading down the path of comic books and the madness that is this world.
Yeah, I like it, man. Look at him. He's happy. He's doing things that he wants to do. He's out of that bakery. No more meringues for Kieran. It's like, see you later, man. I'm Gonski. I'm So, obviously, because you're very prolific, man, and I don't know how long.
Thank you.
The Talking Bread had been out for by that stage, but my first come across of you was when we did the comics calendar, and you did an image, a cool image, and weird how the world works, man. And I remember looking at that image at the time, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I'd like to talk to him about, that. So I'm going to assume that we know you're a baker. So I'm going to put 2 and 2 together here, man, and think that your penchant for bread and stuff might have led to this, obviously. And Sean Keenan, here we go. Has he never baked anything and brought it to a show? I'm not sure he was ever a baker. There you go, man. There you go. Hey?
He's lighting a fuse there because I made brownies the last supernova. He never even had one.
Oh,
I offered him one. Come on, mate.
He's in the heat at like 2 a.m. in the morning, because this is where I want to diverge to. You're like we're a 2 a.m. starter. Were you one of those poor little buggers that had to get in there like that sort of hour?
Yeah, there was 2. There was 12 a.m.s. There was 7 p.m. in Easter when you were doing multiple amounts of hot cross buns. You start at 7 p.m. while everyone's still out and about.
Have you ever eaten a hot cross buns ever after you left the bakery, man?
I couldn't eat them when I was there. I couldn't load them. I've gradually gotten back into them, but it's a struggle. Definitely a struggle. But look, it was a great career to have at the time. But I do not wish it upon anyone, to be honest. They're torturous.
Man, I uh, I remember because the bakeries. This is what I feel for you, man. You know, being that poor young person in there baking, the last thing you want to do, like Sunday morning, man, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning.
Right.
And I was one of those drongos because where we live in the city, in Townsville, when the nightclubs and pubs were all in the city, man. And I used to live in North Ward. So to get home, you'd go over a slight rise, you know, man, any like a 2-foot rise, you know, and like I'm dying here, you know, like you just had a night out on the terps, mate. And, you know, and Brumbies used to be open at this little precinct, man, at like, you know, 3 a.m. in the morning. And, man, I loved you guys at that stage, man, you bakers. I thought you were the greatest people in the world because you could get coke and a pie at like 3 a.m. in the morning and put up, like there were heaps of people there too, you know, and everyone was so pleasant. So, you know, like as I'll never get to see those people again, I'll give you my sterling thanks, mate, for seeing me through some, you know, like hangovers and that during those times, man, and my mates. It was good days, good times. So, yeah, g'day, mate. How are you, Spedsy? Lovely to see you, mate. Hope you're well. Now, let's get into the talking bread.
Yeah, talking bread. Right. Yeah, I kind of dove into that in the deep end. I'd never really. I wasn't a writer. I wrote stories for school assignments. You know, I'd watched a heap of movies, read a heap of comics. I'm like, why don't I have a crack at this? So, jumped in, did the talking bread. I've drawn my whole life. My whole life. Yeah. So I've always loved to draw. Always wanted to do art. Something in the way of art when I was at school. Wasn't a lot of opportunities for me, so that's why I led down the baking career, which was still a form of art, I guess you call it a form of art. Artisan creations, whatever you may call it. But yeah, so I was like, all right, I'm going to dive in again. I hadn't really kept practicing up with my drawing, so I kind of dove in again with the deep end and just restarted training myself in that area. And yeah, I just kind of brought it all together. I was like, all right, this is how I'm going to do it. I didn't have a script for the talking bread. I just went straight and started drawing the panels. And coming back to it recently and remastering it, it was like, yeah, holy shit, I really needed to have a script for this. But it's fun and it was energetic, so I think that's what carried it. Also, it embodied a lot of the joyfulness that I had when I was baking, and those characters that are there, they embodied a lot of the people that I may or may not work with. And that was the way I kind of jumped into it. And
it had a great friend with the hot cross bun, man. You know, that's why you can't mention anyone's name. You know, like, did I or didn't I? Like, and who's the meat pie? That's the next one. All right, so Richo, as someone who has a patisserie chef in the family, what is Kieran's signature dish or his favourite dish?
My signature dish? That's a good question. I mean, from a dinner point of view, it's usually meatballs. So I'm going to do a mad meatballs and pasta. From the baking side of it, it's actually the Turkish loaf. I do quite enjoy making Turkish bread. It's pretty straightforward stuff. Bit of water, bit of flour, pinch of yeast, pinch of salt, let it rest, punch it a couple of times, put some holes in it, throw it in the oven, bang, it's done. It's a pretty straightforward kind of bread, and it's actually really tasty. But yeah, that's probably my two signature dishes.
Yeah, right. There you go. Well, Richo, I like that, mate. If you've got any more questions for Kieran, you know, hopefully by the end of the show, we'll have convinced him to put out his own cookbook, you know, and like give us all a few tips, you know, like, you know, Turkish bread, like, oh, good stuff, man. You know, that's cool. So with the no writing, like, look, I've been down this road, man. You know, like I can sympathise with it because, you know, I was the idiot that decided to come up with Battle for Bustle and had somewhat of a script, but then just veered off into any old thing and had to piece it together. And it was, you know, anyway, that's time gone by, and you know, you learn, and then it's how it is. Like, did you? did you had the story in the mind from start to finish, and you nutted it out, and then you came back and did you do things like, oh, it doesn't make sense, I'm going to have to redo that page, or did you like cut and paste panels and stuff, and then it just instead of being a nice smooth road man, like it becomes like a bit more of a back paddock sort of thing. Did you find that, and did you swear to yourself that you'd never do it again?
Yeah, I think I did. I swore I never do it again without a script. Yeah, sure. I think that's a story in itself.
We got time, man.
I think that with the first one, I made it a very simplistic story. I moved to Melbourne when I completed my apprenticeship, so I've got a very big fondness for Melbourne. I love that city, and I no longer live there, but I still enjoy going there. And I kind of use the city itself as the background for the talking bread. So big thing in the city is pigeons, and you'd always see the pigeons at the bins scabbing away at the bags trying to get the day-old bread. So they were basically the villains of this first story. And it was like, well, you've got that, you've got the bread slices, and I just brought it all together. And it's funnily, recently I've been thinking about, like, with the Lady of the Swamp, my influence in horror and how I love horror movies. Mm-hmm. And I kind of look back on the talking bread, and it is very much Frankenstein when you really think about it. When you go from start to finish the talking bread, it's these slices of bread that have been brought to life by the baker, which is very similar mirroring in Frankenstein's story. Frankenstein's monster as well. So yeah, it was really interesting to kind of go back and look at that. And then when I came into the other issues of the talking bread, I was like, all right, now I need to actually figure out a script for it. Sit down, write a script. And made it, the 6-part series that it is today. And it was really fun. Issue 2 was a part of the 24-hour comic book challenge. I did that. I'll never do that again. That sucks. I just did not enjoy that at all.
Oh man, I can't enjoy that. Page in 24 hours, let alone a whole comic book. Like, man.
It was. It definitely showed when I went back and remastered it last year. It was definitely evident that it was done in 24 hours. But it was an interesting experience, and by the end of it, you can really tell where my mind was going. It was really going down the rabbit hole, and I don't think I'll ever do that again. That was just not. It wasn't enjoyable, and I'm all about enjoying the experience and enjoying the ride. But as comic creators, we like to challenge ourselves and do these crazy things. So it was like, well, had a go at it, hated it, and we'll never do it again.
But it's done now, and you succeeded, man. So no one can take that away from you, and it's exactly right. Job well done. Because from the tales that I've heard, it's like I'm not ever going to have a go at it, man. I can't even finish a comic book series in 30 years, man. Let alone try and finish a comic book in 24 hours.
It was brutal. It was brutal. I think I started it early morning, and then when I'd gotten to I think it was about 2 a.m., my mind was just I had too much coffee. I was delirious. I think I went and got some McDonald's just to try and fill my stomach and keep me going. And I was wrecked by the morning. And it wasn't even making sense. Like, I was lettering it. My editor's just like, you need to go to sleep. It's not making any sense. So that was the end of it. Once they said that, it was finished, but it was like there was bits and pieces I had to go back and change. But yeah, I was good. That was enough for me. Once was enough.
Yeah. Oh, that's a beautiful moment in time, man. That's right, Shane.
Trust Shane to say that.
Yeah. But that's a beautiful moment in time, man, and no one can take that back from you. So that's a lovely achievement, man. So congratulations on that. Because, we got Sigmund Studio. Hello, SK. Yo, Leigh. Yo, Kieran. Happy birthday, Shane. I know you're hiding behind the scenes. He certainly is, SK, and nice to hear from you, mate. I haven't seen you in a while. And you're both wearing very similar glasses frames. Was that intentional? SK, mate, if you just drop back into the show 29 minutes ago, which you can re-watch anytime you like, we've basically decided that we're sacking our stylists, mate, and like this is it. And Kieran gets to look at the mirror of what he can look like when he's 46.
I think
this is what a good life does to you, mate. But anyway, it's hey. Anyway, I digress. So 6 issues with the walking bread. Now, like I suppose this is a question that comes up often. The title play on The Walking Dead
was never my intention. I love, as you can see, probably behind you, I've got The Walking Dead there. I love The Walking Dead, but it was never an intention. 2015 was created in. I love The Walking Dead, but it was like, they're talking pieces of bread. Talking bread makes sense, and I think that's a great title. And I had a pitch it to a mate who was interested in what I was doing, and I said, Talking bread. He's like, you're just doing a parody of The Walking Dead. And I was like, never even thought of that. And I'm like, do I change it? And he's like, no. He goes, keep that. That's your title. That's what you want to call it. They are talking bread, so that's So there was no real influence in that title being affiliated with The Walking Dead at all. And what I love now is that at conventions, when I've got the Talking Bread banner up in the booth or at the table, people will walk by and they'll see the Talking Bread, but they'll actually say, ha ha, like The Walking Dead. And it's kind of a great way of just luring them in, and kind of, it's a false sense of like, hey, come check out the book, and they read it and they laugh. And, 80% of the time I'll get a sale out of it because I've been able to attract them that way. So it's really interesting to see that happen. It was a great mistake, really.
Yeah. Well, mate, it's all about getting yourself out there. I wondered that because at the time, I'd sort of missed The Walking Dead, the TV show, that whole thing, and I don't know. I decided to binge watch like 77 seasons of it.
Wow. That's
however many there are. It felt like
there's a lot.
Went away on me, and it just thought, and I don't know. In one of those delirious moments, I had that. I wonder if Kieran ever, named the Talking Bread after The Walking Dead. Maybe one day I'll ask him that, and I did. See how these things.
It all
happen.
comes around. All comes around full circle.
I know, like a donut. Oh, but anyway, did you
Yes, I made donuts. I made enough donuts in my life. Yeah, it's
making thing, man. I'll stop now. All right,
No. Look, ask away. It was definitely it was an interesting career to have, and I don't regret it at all. I learned a lot out of it. I got a business degree out of it, which has helped immensely with the comic book thing. But it's really interesting.
That has helped you with Halftone Production.
Correct, it has. Yes. And other endeavors. So it's been a real kind of it's not a bad thing at all. I think it's always I always take it with pride that I had a good job and I was good at what I did, and was able to get a couple of bonuses out of it at the end of the day. I got a business degree, met some good people, met some interesting characters that made for an interesting comic book.
Right, that's all that matters. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you get your start in the funniest places, and the Talking Bread, got you, and being a baker, got your business degree, led you to Halftone Productions, which is very successful because you are absolutely pumping out stuff like there's no tomorrow.
Thank you.
As we will get into. And I also, you're pretty, you're very, how shall I say, present at the conventions and stuff like that. I remember back in the early days and stuff too, like a few years back, you were also very forthcoming with people. And what's wonderful is that a lot of creators are. Which I think is great for people that haven't been to conventions or new people. But you're very forthcoming with, I should have tried this, or I should have done that. I should have been better this way. I might get some more banners, that sort of a thing. And I like that you were so open with that sort of a thing, man, and very giving with your information and like helping others that come after you and stuff with what you were doing then at the time. So I've always admired that really about yourself and the other creators out there, and certainly hope that you guys continue to do that, because it is interesting, because you never know when you're going to need a certain thing, or something might not work, or a refresh of stock, or that sort of stuff, because people think, like, there's so many things to think about, man, as I can tell by that,
there's a lot.
What's the going to a convention, and you got to get prepped, you got to pack the car, you got to get, like, the thing what I like to sort of get across to people that listen to chinwags or watch them and stuff is, like, creators at the end of the day, like, it's a huge symbiote circle, whether you're fans or people that buy the comic books, or commissions, editors, publishers, like convention organizers. I mean, like, it all works together. And I love the fact that it's a very healthy community. It's industrious, as as a great mate of mine would say, which would lead to industry. People outside of it, of the creating in those little areas, that I'm talking about, don't really understand the work and that all the little bits and pieces that go into getting that final thing in front of people. And I love the fact that we've been, already been able to talk about, like, these sorts of things for you to get to your comic book and stuff. Now, on a really strange, I guess, query, when you've gone to a convention, you'd have your you'd have your utility belt of stuff that like, that you're taking, you're not missing out. What was the one thing at the one time? Because I'm willing to bet there would have been one. Like, there might have been more. You can elaborate on this if you wish. But what's the one thing that you got to that comic book convention and you went, oh man, I really needed that. Why didn't I think about that? There'd have to be something, wouldn't there?
God, there's been a few times like that. I'm just trying to pick which has been the absolute brick in the stomach. I'm just trying to think. There's been a few times I've gotten to it and I'm like, I wish I had that here, and I've missed it, or I've forgotten it, or it's happened a few times. And I try not to think about it too much. I try to push forward. But when it does happen, I get myself into a bit of a rut. I'm like, oh, why did I do that? Why did I do that for? You fall, like, you've got to kind of bounce back as quickly, because you don't have the time to kind of stress out about those kind of things. And I've always, tried to focus on the day itself. The cons, and as you know, they're not easy. They're definitely not easy. You're up on your feet for most of it. You're there, churning away, talking to people, trying to make sales, trying to make the connection for people to pick up your book and at least have a look at it. Not exactly make a sale, but at least have that interaction with people. So that's always the hard part. I don't think it's been dire at times when I've missed something, or wish I'd had something that I don't have with me, or seen something. I always tried to think about, what comes next. What am I doing that can make it better for me and a better experience for the people that are coming to the table? So that's where I kind of like to go with. I don't try to dote on anything I have missed, or can I do that and can I do it better, is how I try to think about it. And it's always worked for me. It's always played to my advantage. Being able to keep evolving, the table, or the way I come across to people, or the convention itself. But that's basically where it's kind of just continuing to grow from there, and kept building up. I haven't really had to really stress about that, and I try to keep myself out of that mindset, because if you go down that mindset, it becomes a real dark place at a convention, when you're there to enjoy yourself and to obviously make a bit of money as well, and have a good time and catch up with your comic mates, and it's really something I try not to do too much. I mean, on another note, I did hit a kangaroo recently when I was going to the geek markets in Canberra at 5 o'clock in the morning, which did smash my car up a little bit. So that kind of was a bit of a downer for the moment. You know, on your way to a convention, and thankfully I was invited to go to that one, so there was no table costs for me, but it was still, you know, had to make the money to pay for the excess to get the car fixed now, which is you know, that happens. Those kind of things happen. So I was disappointed I hit a poor kangaroo.
Did you hey Jackie, how you going? Kieran Jack is an awesome guy.
Hey, dude.
How are you?
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you very much. And thank you for watching. Now, if I do miss any comments tonight, thank you everyone for watching the show as always, and I will endeavour to get the questions to Kieran and keep an eye out on things. But sometimes we just get really involved in this stuff, you know.
It happens.
Where are you living now that you're so close to Canberra that you can drive?
I live in Albury-Wodonga, so border of Vic and New South Wales. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's cool. I'd love to go to a convention in Canberra because my dad's side of the family are from Gundagai. So.
Oh wow! Yeah.
I've spent quite a lot of time down there. I like that area of the world.
Well, that's exactly where I hit the kangaroo. So I was in Gundagai. Right. Yeah.
And you have lasting memories of Gundagai, where I hit.
Oh, yeah, that's that. It was apparently a bad weekend for it, so you know there was a lot of carnage on the roads.
Yeah, right. I wonder what made it so different from any other. And whereabouts near Gundagai did you run into said route?
Just on the outskirts of it, going towards Canberra, over the main bridge. Just come off the bridge and going up the hill. I was coming down. I had the music that loud that when it hit, it hit and it scared the life out of me. But I've never hit a roo before, so it was a completely new experience for me. And being 5 o'clock in the morning in pitch black, it was just it was the icing on the cake for me, really. Yeah. So. I'm not probably not going to be driving at night time anymore like that, or in the early mornings anymore. That was probably the worst experience I've had going to a convention after 8 years. So I can't complain.
Yeah. Well, there's something that people can keep in mind, you know, like early morning travel, you know, like does sort of tend to lead to kangaroos, you know, like it happens, you know, like and you know it happens up here too, mate, you know, and sometimes you find them on your front yard, you know what I mean, like looking at you, you know, out the front stuff, you know, it's
you don't want to cross them.
No, luckily enough around my area and in suburbs nearby, there's just little wallabies and stuff, man. I wouldn't really want to run into a kangaroo either, you know, like they're you know, you can stay over there, buddy. You know, like you're very free in the distance. Like sheep. Don't get me started on sheep, man. I got a thing about sheep. You know, like it's just a childhood thing. Very pretty from a distance and stuff, and they sound very sweet. You know what I mean? Laid up on the hill, but you come up close and they're all dangle-berried up and dirty and shit. You know, and they're all like, bah! You know, at you know. But anyway, I've digressed again. Hence the chinwag. So after you've done the talking bread, was that obviously it wasn't, but were you thinking to yourself at the time, you know, like, that's it, I've done my comic book thing, you know what I mean? Or was the fires were burning then, you know, you'd done a couple of conventions, people buying it, you're meeting people, you got your business degree, halftones, you know, like starting, you know, like I was getting fanned here, you know. So
it was my mate Bradley, who did Super RBA, at the time when I was wrapping up Talking Bread, he had his artist walk away from the series, so he was kind of in limbo what he wanted to do. And I said, well, why don't you come with me and bring it onto the Halftone? And you know, I'm doing all the conventions, you know, I can take it with me and have it on the table. And, you know, do a bit of a soft reboot. We'll get a new artist and come on and we'll go from there. And so we got an artist on. I was kind of in the background working on my next book in Purgatory. And I was kind of let's get this out. So we pushed that one out, and we got Super RBA back on the road again, which was great. And then I was like, by the time I'd finished Talking Bread, I already started basically outlining how In Purgatory was going to play out. I had a couple of ideas also, but I was like, nah, I want to do In Purgatory. I need to tell the story. This was, I grew up as a Catholic, so I was kind of wanted to tell the story, and I denounced that at an early age after I decided to walk away from that. And it really is a real personal thing for me when it comes to In Purgatory, and it tells my own affliction towards religion and the world we live in. And I went deep into that, and the response from that was incredible. It was probably more well received than what the Talking Bread was. It had a skull on it, and you put a skull on the front of a comic book and people are going to eat it up. But it was the Grim Reaper. So it was really, I was telling a point of view from the Grim Reaper's perspective about life after death, religion, how do we deal with that, and war, all that kind of stuff. And I kind of emulated that through that. And it was kind of cathartic for me to be writing about this. And this is where I started to take my writing a little bit more serious as well as a creator. I was like, okay, I need to really make sure that I'm really projecting about what I want to talk about. So In Purgatory being kind of the sophomore for Halftone Productions, really. It was really about me kind of honing in on the writing side of it and creating this character in this world that, it kind of builds out on the mythology of the Bible and religion. And it doesn't have to be just Catholic. It was really looking at all kinds of religion and kind of how it's perceived in the world that we live in. And still to today, it's been so well received. The series is still ongoing. I've had it on hiatus for about nearly 3 years now, whilst I've been working on other projects, because I just needed a bit of a break from it.
It could get heavy, from the way you're talking. Content can get heavy.
Yes, absolutely, it can get heavy. And I did throw myself into it pretty much like once the Talking Bread had finished. I had no other projects really lined up. Super RBA was out the door, and that was going really well. So I just threw myself into this project, and I think for the first year and a half, I pumped out 6 issues. So it was quite intensive in that sense. So that's why I need to just put the brakes on and focus on a couple of other stories to have a bit of a breather. And I've recently come back into it, and I've got 2 issues now waiting to go. And it's so great to be back in that world and kind of creating those characters again and working on the stories and playing that sandbox again, because I've been away from it so long. So that was really...
Sorry to interrupt, but to get 6.5 issues, you just said? 6
issues,
in what, 18 months?
18 months, yeah.
That's a lot of work, man. That's writing. You must have had some stuff in you that needed to come out with that comic book. You must have hit a point of a sense of urgency that I want to tell this story.
Yeah, I really did, and it was so well. That's part of the reason it was so well received. Like the response we had from the Kickstarter campaigns and the conventions, it's outsold the Talking Bread, but it's also just been so well received to the point now that people are like, will message me and say, hey, when's the next one coming out? Like, you've left us in limbo for two or 3 years. Like, is there another one coming out? And I'm well and truly on the way to making the next 6 issues. But it was really cathartic for me to write that series and kind of get that off my chest. And a lot of people have come back to me since then and said, we really get where you're coming from when you're talking in this story, which really hits home, like, more than anything can as a writer, like to have people come up and say, hey, we understand where you're coming from. We've been in that similar situation. So it was really good. It was really refreshing. It was great to be able to kind of put it out into the world and have it received so well. And look, all I can say is I'm really looking forward to getting the next 6 issues out. We've got 2 already finished, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people think of this next part of the story.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I can tell by the passion and just the way you described your experience and getting it out then that it's obviously a passion project for you. I also would like to say that I have self-autobiographical work is respect to you, man, because to
Yeah,
me
cheers.
that's ballsy, but you know what I mean. You're throwing yourself out there, and what to me, like what a marvelous thing comics are. That like the medium in itself where you can do that, and if the reader is savvy enough, they'll know exactly, like
Yeah.
this dude's given himself here. You know what I mean? Like, and if you're not, you can still enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like for
Correct.
the fine piece of work it is. So
Yeah.
that's the beautiful relationship between the creator and the person reading it, man.
Yeah.
That's, yeah,
Absolutely.
no, that's fantastic, mate.
Yeah.
I have seen in Purgatory Around. I have not. I haven't read it, but seeing, like that fire just then is like definitely going to track that down in the very near future, man. Because,
Yeah, definitely, man.
no, it'd be great, man, to get a look at that. So I'll hit you up afterwards where I can find that.
Yeah,
So
cheers, man.
break. You had a little bit of a break because I can understand, man, with that because just so you just so you know, I'm not like pulling your leg. Battle for Bustle is a very personal, intimate, I guess, story for me too. That is semi-biographical. It's just I've chosen, a science fiction world to like talk about my relationships with like Dad and my views on the world and nature and technology and things like that. And how I see things like in a creative way. And it does get heavy, man. Like when
It
you
really
get to a
does.
point, bud, where you go, I can't draw it anymore. I don't want to go back there. I just need a break. It's like I totally get that because Battle for Bustle for me has been on hiatus for about 18 months. Well, I've been doing some other stuff too, man. Because it's
you need it. You need it.
Oh, mate, yeah, I know. It's so I understand now. And I'm very empathic towards that too, mate. So, Kieran, I like it, man. I like your fire, brother. It's good. It's good. It's a good thing. Now we've had that. You've got people, they want more. Just get to it when I'm ready. This is the other advantage of being an independent creator. You know what I mean? You don't have people cracking that whip that you got to get it out on date, on time, all that sort of job. Like you can still enjoy a little bit of life, still enjoy some balance, mate, which is an integral thing because a lot of us would hey Bo, how you going, buddy? And it is the first time on Aussieverse, mate. I mentioned you at the start of the show, and thank you very much, Bo. You're a champion, and everyone involved at Aussieverse, everyone that isn't part of the Aussieverse, watching the Aussieverse, love you, and much love. That's what makes the world go round. And where were we before that? Kieran, help a brother out. I've lost my train of thought.
We're talking about the amount of work we put into these comics and how we're not buying into people's schedules.
Yes, that's correct. And because man, I totally lost my train of thought. That's okay. We'll probably come back to it. I work like that. My brain veers off, and then probably by the end of the show, I'll come back and tack onto it. But the work schedule is. That's where I was going. This is. Anyway,
there you go. You got it.
Yeah, I know, mate. I know. My brain works weird, man. It's sometimes it's like 4 feet in front of where my face is. It's like I can't help that. I get excited.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah. It's excitement's good. So we get to the point of we're introverts, really. I mean, when you're writing and you're drawing, you're introverted. And, you're not really sure what the world's going to think of what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like, pretty sure about what you're doing. And you're hoping that, like things resonate with other people. So part of in that world you're creating is the heaviness. And it's lovely to get some positive responses, man.
Absolutely.
But the one thing I will say about your stuff that I've heard from other people in the community is it's all got positive stuff, mate, coming from it. You know, like I've not heard a bad word about any of your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that's one positive for you. I mean, I don't know that many people, man. Do you know what I mean? Like, but you know, like when they speak of Kieran Jack, they're giving him a big thumbs up, man. You know.
Oh,
so,
cheers. Yeah.
Yeah. So you keep going. So we got
Thank
in
you.
Purgatory, and then now. Your next one was, I'm going to have a punt here, man, because you're that prolific that I you know, let's see how this old man works. We've already got a little bit of it. It's like, I don't know what it's like, but the apparition. Am I close?
You got it. Bang on there.
Winner. All right.
You hit the nail on the head.
All right.
The apparition.
Hit me with that. Where's Halftone this after the success of In Purgatory? People are digging it. You're getting as much stuff now at your conventions. You haven't hit any kangaroos. Things are rolling forward. Steam rolling, man. So where are we at with the apparition, and what was the gestation of that?
Well, it was coming out of it came out of a couple of things. It came out of I was tired of the superhero tropes of the comics. I'd just gotten bored with it, and I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to do a parody. I'd always wanted to do a parody of a character. And we were living in the world of the pandemic and lockdowns and all that jazz. And I was like, you know what? Just need something a bit more brighter than In Purgatory. So I came off that, and I basically started writing it straight away. And I wrote a 120-page story that included, I think it was 13 chapters within it, within the 120 pages. Passed it off to a couple of people within the industry, and got some feedback. Some of it positive, and some of it negative. One of the comments was that it was a bit nasty at points. Others were that was pretty hilarious, and they could see where I was coming from, which was great feedback. And I took it all on board and kind of reworked the script a little bit, which was great for my ability as a writer to kind of test myself and push myself a little bit more with some feedback from my peers, which I always do appreciate and respect. So, the apparition, I kind of went in head first with that one. And as you might see on the covers, it's definitely a parody of a certain superhero that I won't name for legal reasons. But the response, I thought, look, in Purgatory is the benchmark of where I'm at. And I said, I don't think we can go any higher than that. And I was wrong. Apparition was very well received. We managed to sell a few copies, which was great. I'm always appreciative of selling a few copies, but we sold a few more than we thought we were going to. I got in with what I wanted to say and got out as quickly as I could, because again, I didn't want to get pursued. But I knew going into that project, I did a bit of research on the law around parody and what you can and can't do. So the Australian arts law, I reached out to them and had a chat to them about what I was doing and where I was going with it. They gave me some feedback on what I can and can't do, which was new territory for me. I'd never really bothered to research what I can and can't say within a form of media. Had you,
just for topic's sake, really, because it's never been covered, and you're a man to talk to about this. There's parody and imitation. Is that what the two
homage?
What are the differences between those in what you researched and studied?
So homage is it's almost a love letter to a story or a character that it imitates the story. And with a parody, you're taking the tropes of that character and you're making fun of it. So think of things like Rick and Morty, which is a very good example of parody. And I know in the early days when they created that cartoon, they were in a lot of trouble with Universal because they were parodying Back to the Future. And so you had to be really careful. I know Australia is a bit more tighter with their legislation when it comes to parodying. You actually can get away with a bit more in Australia, but they've really got it down tooth and nail about what you can and can't do. Whereas in America, it's really not. You've got a certain amount you can go before you get in trouble. Basically, if you start shitting on the character itself without naming it, you can get a cease and desist in the mail saying stop doing that, or we'll take you to court. So it was about knowing how far I could go without getting into trouble and finding myself in court as an independent creator, and kind of pushing that to the boundaries. And I think I achieved that within the story I'm telling. We did 2 volumes of it. And the audience surrounding that character that I'm parodying has welcomed it so well. Like I didn't think it was going to be received well, and the response I've had from those people has been astounding. So I can walk away from that project saying job done. I'm still selling copies. I have them at conventions. People walk up and say that character's name. We have a chuckle about it. It was great to do. It was a real palate cleanser as well, coming off In Purgatory, being a bit more darker, and without giving spoilers away, I ended the story without being something I can never go back to. So. I don't really want to go back there. I've done what I wanted to do. I've said what I wanted to say, and I've walked away from it, but I still sell it. I've got a little action figure behind me of him. It was fun to do. It was definitely different, and it led to me being basically taking another project off another indie creator and kind of running with it, which it was a great opportunity. Yes, So
that's coming up shortly. Now, another question that I'm most interested in with the parody and the homage thing, and just with your creative process during this, were you the ideas gestated?
Yep.
You want to do this, you come off something heavy, you want to do something a bit, for lack of a better word, and no disrespect, I guess a little bit more loose, a little bit, like silly. I want to get cool. I want to get, do something a bit crazy, man. And serious, Were you already like scripted and then went to, like the people to say, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and like push it too far? And did they say, yes, in this area you are, reel it back in? Did they do that for you? Or did you already have the comic book done and then send it off and then go? No. I'm not gonna lie. I was very nervous about putting it out because I thought, am I gonna burn bridges by doing this? Potential bridges in the future. But I thought to myself, no. If you don't have a stab at it, then someone else will have a go at it. And I done my research and knew my boundaries, and then I wrote it. I gave it to a couple of people. I had some feedback. It was a bit too nasty. It was a bit too heavy on certain areas where you're taking the Mickey out of the character. And it was great because one of the guys called me and had a chat, and he's just like, I love it. But he goes, you just need to probably tone it back a little bit because it's probably a bit too on the nose for what you're going for. And looking back in hindsight, he's absolutely right. It probably was a little bit too heavy because it always probably would have been out of place within the story for being a lighthearted, humorous story about this character that, we all know about. And it was good. I'm glad I did have that feedback before I went in because it helped me kind of curate how it would all play out towards the end of the story as well. So that was great. I really do appreciate it. And that's something I actually do quite often now with my scripts. I'll give it to a few people that are peers of mine, and they'll have a review of it and they'll give me any feedback, which really always helps. I'm always appreciative of anyone that's willing to give me feedback who's got a little bit more experience or more experience than I do. Yeah. Well, that's how we learn, mate. Like I've,
Correct.
you have your trusted people, mate. Like I've got mine. It's
Exactly.
Dropping ideas through, and they certainly get pushed through the sieve, you know what I mean? Like some that, I really wanted that to work, and you get sort of like, I mean, these are all helpful things, mate, because so at this stage, quick little recap for people. We've had the Talk Thread, 6 issues. We've had In Purgatory, 6 issues. So 12 issues all up. We've had The Apparition, 2 volumes, how many pages? 2, like what?
60 and 70.
Yeah,
60 and 70
okay.
pages. Yeah.
So you've pumped out essentially, 300 odd pages of artwork and comic book in 4 or 5 years at this stage?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, about that.
Woo! Yeah, right. Okay,
Yeah.
man, you're a beast. It's like, my God, it's like, wow, respect.
Thanks, man.
No, truly. If you saw how slow I work, my God, man, snails won't go faster than me. But anyway, now you've got to that. How long did it take you to do The Apparition, like to start to finish?
Started in 2021.
Yeah.
Finished it in start of 2022. So a year. Worked on it for a year.
Okay. And so that's only 2 years ago. And like we've still got more projects in between the 2 years that you've done and you're doing. Okay. Whew, man.
It's a marathon, isn't it?
Turn that aircon down, man. Like, anyway. Wow, that's very impressive, mate.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. And
I don't have a social life. I don't have a social life.
Yeah, no. Look,
going down the toilet.
Oh, well, but look at the good stuff that you're doing, man, and the
Thank
people
you.
you're meeting and the joy you're bringing to people, you know what I mean? Like, and all the people you're getting to meet, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And if it hadn't have been for Auntie Amanda, none of it would have happened, like,
exactly,
she's a champion. I don't even know the lady, but I love her, man. Social life is overrated, Shane. I 100% agree, like, who needs it? Now, you're coming off The Apparition. You're humming. You're feeling good. You got, you got that out. So you covered the Talking Bread, which was semi-autobiographical, semi-serious. You know what I mean? Dabbling in comic books. You've gone into In Purgatory, which is personal. Like in your face. Here's my soul booklet. This is my vision of the world. Heavy stuff. I want to get into some silly, like stuff. Bang.
Yeah.
Next on the roster, mate. All right. Now, before you get to that, are you already coming up with ideas while you're working on these other creations, or are you just solely booked?
Yeah, I was working. Yeah, no, I was working on other creations whilst I was mingling with all these other things. We had The Rise of the Talking Bread come out, which was a little spin-off series of just little short stories that take place within the main universe.
Yeah.
And that basically was, I did a pitch for we had 12 different creators in Australia go to it. Yeah. And they basically did different little short stories that take place within the universe. That was released back in 2019. So that was done whilst I was working on In Purgatory.
So you're also, at the same time as you're writing, working and drawing on your own stuff, and, Halftone's going. So you're promoting, marketing, you're editing, like there's a lot of work goes into this, like that sort of stuff. It's a business. It's not, like not just a Saturday afternoon beers and I'm going to draw some stuff, you know what I mean? Like you're serious about it, which is good stuff, because this sort of thing's motivating for a lot of other people out there too, man, because, like the beauty of what I like about the opportunity that I get to talk to people like you about with Chinwag is that there's other people. I mean, Australia's a big country, and there's other people in small towns like you are, like I am, that, sometimes feel alone and wonder what they're doing. But, like these sorts of chats, allow people to see, like, wow, man, like this dude is like really humming, you know what I mean? Like, and pumping stuff out, motivated, it's good. It's very good. And Auntie Amanda, it's all your fault. So you're also like with obviously you didn't do the artwork. You said 12 artists. So not only are
Yep.
you working on this comic book, you're also organizing other artists and doing scripts for them. You're getting artwork in to be able to put all of these stories together. Now, the next thing that people sort of don't understand if they don't do comic books is you got to also format these pages and stuff like that. And, like you got to letter them if you're not hand lettering them, and you got to get them ready for the printer. And then there's that side of things too. So you are handling all of this by yourself while having this massive output of work. Is this correct?
That's correct. Yep. Very much so. It's
It's unbelievable.
with the rise of Talking Bread, it was 6 writers, 6 artists, and I brought the teams together based off what I knew from them and how I know they work, and I matched them up. I said, "Oh, you're going to work this one. You're going to work this one." I put them together, and then I basically linked them up and said, "Hey, look, this is who you're going to be working with. Get to know each other, work together on it," and basically from there they went nuts. And it was great. Like for me as a creator, I was working on In Purgatory while this was all going on. But for me to receive the artwork and receive the stories and to see my creations being interpreted by other people, that was such a gift in itself. Like I was like, I'm paying these people to kind of work on my project, and to be able to receive something in return for what I'm paying for, it was incredible. Like I'm an artist and I'm a writer, but I'm also I'm producing work now, and to be able to see people create my stories and bring them to life is also much more fulfilling than probably what I'm doing with my own stuff, because I get to see that vision come to life in other ways from other people.
Yeah. Have you ever had the sensation of you have your vision and you let people come into that world, and there's obviously some nervousness with that because you're giving a little bit of yourself away there. You sort of like you're making yourself vulnerable with your baby, really, and the things you're creating. And you ever had that moment like where you've seen something come back and it has quite honestly blown your mind with how that particular artist has interpreted a page that you've written? Like, have you ever had that moment? I wouldn't have done
Every
it
time.
that way. My God, like just the wow,
Every time.
Yeah.
So funnily enough, In Purgatory has a guest artist in each issue. So each issue we have someone come on and write a flashback that goes on within the story. So I've had Matt Kime, I've had Angie Spice, I've had Logan French, Camillo on there. So like these people have come on and done that, and it every time it just blows my mind. More so now because I'm working on with Logan with the latest book, which we'll get to eventually. But it's at the moment he's sending the pages through that I'm writing because I'm purely writing that project. But it's just it's phenomenal to see his vision on the story that I'm telling, because his art style and my art style are completely different. So you are 100% right there, Leigh. It's just, it blows my mind every time.
Yeah. Oh man, like it certainly would, man. You're just having so much fun. I can see it. It's good. All right, so we're going to move into your one of the gentlemen's the fellow creators that I know you've had a lot to do with. I've seen it, like just in other interviews I've watched with you and things like that, and I've seen the comic book and stuff, and I'm aware that Matt Kime is out and about, and I've met Matt once on a Friday night drink and draw long ago, and very nice man. Now what's the story with? Because he's a very busy man, I would suggest, from what I can see and understand. I mean, I don't know the dude, you know him, but he seems busy.
He's busy,
His character that you came to next, How did that all come about, mate? Was that just one of those trusting relationships? You'd work together enough, you're on a level, you resonate with each other, and it's like, have a shot, mate. You know, like
it was
there?
it was just a friendship that built up from conventions. I tabled 2 tables down from it at I'm going to say, I think it might have been Oz Comic Con. Yeah. And we just got to know each other through then. He bought the Talking Bread. I bought his comic at the time. Yeah. And we kind of just grew from there, you know, message every now and again on social media. And then we started connecting that way. And it kind of flourished. And I had him do a bit of a cameo page within Purgatory. And, you know, he smashed it out of the park, and then we did a launch for it. We did an exclusive at D's Comics. We had a variant cover for that, which was huge. He made the trek up there from Melbourne, you know, and then as it just kept growing. And then he was one of the people I gave the Apparition to review, and he gave me some feedback on that, and he really enjoyed it. And the Wrath of the Curse, excuse me, he wrote the Wrath of the Curse back in 2018. Yeah. And he'd finished it. He'd completed the story and he moved on from it. And now he's writing for Phantom. He does a lot of Phantom stories at the moment for Frew. And he basically just gave me a call one day and he's like, hey, man, I've had this really, really weird idea. Would you be interested in taking over the Wrath of the Cursed? I know the story is concluded. I did a variant comic on one of his, which was actually the first of its kind for issue 3. I did my own version of his story, even though he'd already illustrated his own. He gave me the chance to do a variant comic, which we don't think it's ever been done. We tried to research; it's never been done. It's no longer available. I'm glad for that because it's actually horrendous when I look at it now. But yeah, I did that, and then he came back to me and said, "Would you be interested in taking the reins and continuing the Wrath of the Curse story? I don't really have any plans for it, but I want to see it kind of taken out with other people and kind of they develop the story and see where it goes." So I was like, yeah, sure. I was like, why not? You know, it's a incredible honor. Thank you for letting me be a part of this and do that. So I wrote an outline for it, sent it off to him. He approved it. And then I dove straight in and started writing the story. I wrote it as a 3-part series originally, and then I thought, no, I'm going to turn it into a graphic novel. Basically, I wanted to get it, you know, a one and done hit story so that, you know, the people who follow his work would be interested in picking it up and reading it. And it was also a business idea too. I was like, I'll do a graphic novel because then I'm not, you know, stuck with it, working on it for the next 3 to 5 years, kind of pumping out more and more and more. So, he approved it. He loved it. The best feedback for me was that he's like, it's like I wrote it. And I was like, holy shit, like, dude, that's the best feedback I can hear. Like, I was chuffed by that. I was like, this is incredible. Okay, so I had his blessing to go ahead with it. He wanted me to illustrate it. He's like, I want you to do it. I couldn't imagine anyone else doing it. And so I just dove in, and I'm still working on the moment. Unfortunately, it's taking a bit longer, but I want to make sure it's perfect because it's really the first opportunity I've had to work on someone else's IP. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I continue that legacy that Matt has created with his story and his characters. Yeah. So we're nearly there. It's nearly finished. I'm hoping by the end of November I'll have it completed. But yeah, I've been working on that this year, as well as a few other little projects in the background. But it really was a complete and utter, like, I was shocked to be able to continue the story. I thought it would concluded, and I was able to come up with a story that continues that legacy that he's created, and to have his blessing on it is just, it's overwhelming. And I'm excited to get it out to everybody because I think it's a pretty special story.
Yeah, well, it's a well-respected character too, mate. From my understanding, is very well received when it first came out, and certainly. And while we're talking about him, briefly, just so I can name drop him if people don't know him, was it the Bulletproof Kid? Was his other comic book that was very well received? Yeah, so I remember about him, man, is I pick up, you know, copies of the Phantom too, dude. Don't worry about that. And man, he did a wicked cover maybe 12 months ago, and it was the Phantom's outline and a lion
Yes.
in it.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at that and going, damn, that's a good cover. You know what I mean? Like, and being really like, man, you're on fire with that one. So, you know, like, yeah, no, respect. But that'd be great, man, to get that sort of feedback from someone that, you know, like is a mentor, I would assume at this particular
Absolutely.
point in time.
Yeah.
And see, this is a, you're creating, and you've got your crew that you get advice from, and you know, throw ideas and stuff with. Would you think for any up and comer? Because this, I mean, I don't know if other people feel the same way, but just from me looking around and watching and hearing and listening to people and stuff, I sometimes tend to find that I was guilty of it because I came from a small town and didn't have access to facilities like Comex and things that could join people like you and I to talk about these things. You know what I mean? Like, and talk shop. But would you think that if you were a young creator that wanted to get into comic books, that it's invaluable to reach out to people and, you know, like get some advice from people, you know, whether it be about your scripts or your artwork, how you can improve, what you can do? I mean, it's obviously helped you,
Yeah, I come from a bit of a DIY background that also, like, I love punk music, so you know, punk has never been about, you know, getting anyone's approval. It's always about doing what you love, putting it out there. Exactly. And as I've grown as a creator, I have learnt the value of just giving it out to people and asking for a bit of feedback. It does help. It may help fill up you know, something that you might have missed. And I think it really is. And at the end of the day, that's why I started the podcast. The Halftone Effect was more or less basically built for people who are interested in getting into comics, who didn't really know how to, and talking to those people, like what you're doing with this show, is like you're talking to people who are in the industry and kind of getting feedback and information from them. Being a sponge and giving something back to the community as well. And I think that's invaluable. You've got to be able to help. You've got to be able to answer those questions and talk to people and kind of communicate with how you got started and give them feedback. I now, in the later years of creating, I find it that I'm reflecting more on my peers and what they say than ever what I was before. You know, there's constructive criticism, and there's destructive criticism. And I try to steer away from any destructive criticism because I don't believe in it. If you can give someone constructive criticism that helps them evolve and create the story and it's even better than what they originally created, then so be it. But don't ever tear anyone down for their opinions or views. I can't stand it, and I can't be a part of it. So like at the end of the day, it's really about trying to make sure there's a community there that you can reach out to and talk to and get that information to kind of create as well if you wanted to get involved with it in any way, art, writing, editing, producing, whatever it may be.
I 100% agree with you. The brilliant thing about what I've found on my journey with other people is everyone that creates comic books, you know, is a hero to me. All right, like it's just it's the path we all follow. Everyone's roads are different, but you know, like creativity and stuff, you know, it's an important. I believe it's an important thing for the soul is creativity, and that it certainly has been. And on my own journey, one of the things that blew my mind, man, was coming into it and being, you know, you get that, for lack of a better description, I guess it's thrown around a lot, but it's something that people will understand, is that imposter syndrome where you're doing something that you don't really feel like you 100% belong, you know, like, I'm here. Man, so many people have been so welcoming, you know, and with opinions, some gentle, some not so gentle, you know what I mean? Like it depends on what level, I guess, what tangent, I suppose, of teaching that suits you know what I mean, and what you gravitate towards. But I've been relatively lucky to have a lot of the people that I grew up reading comic books when I was a little boy, you know, like randomly sending them a message one day, you know what I mean? Like, and then suddenly finding myself, having huge dialogues, man, for long periods of time. It's
Yeah.
improved myself as a creator, as a writer, and as an artist for sure. Because sometimes, I mean, you can hear some things that in your mind you're a bit, I don't like that, and go and kick a bucket for a couple of days, you know what I mean? Like, and, you get grouchy, but then you come back to it with an open mind and, clear head, and you go, 100% on that money, man, then it's just all gentle improvements, man,
Yes.
like nudges, and that's, I love hearing. You've had that as well, mate, because I certainly have from my mentors and stuff. I've been very lucky along the journey. So now you mentioned your podcast, because from memory, you got up to like 100 episodes on that podcast, didn't you?
Yeah, we just tipped over 100, and I haven't, like, it's on hiatus. As you know, it's a big effort running a podcast, and it's like, not exactly live streaming. You're basically going and you have to edit it and cut bits out and trim it down and do all to make sure the sound looks correct. So it's a lot of work, and I loved it. It was a fantastic way of getting it out there into the world and kind of getting creators on. Unfortunately, we didn't get you on, Leigh. Maybe if we come back anytime soon, we'll have to get you on the show in reverse.
I'll be there.
You can do your spiel on your work, but it was great to be able to talk to those people. No, not at all. We always loved having people on and talking about their inspirations, what got them involved, and spruiking their work and trying to get people involved with what they were doing.
Yeah,
and that's what I really loved about it. It was never about me. It was never about the work that I was doing. We had episodes every now and again where I'd talk about a project, but it was very sparse. It was more about everyone else that came on and kind of finding out what they did. We had comic book store owners come on, which was great to talk to them about, the behind the scenes stuff that you never see. And that was what I was really interested in. And I think by the time I got to, I think it was about the 105th episode, it was very hard to juggle that and the comic books. Yeah, and because it's a business, I had to kind of weigh up what was working and what wasn't. So unfortunately, the Halftone Effect had to take a back seat. So we put that on hiatus whilst we're working on the business model for the comic books. And as that continues to grow, it's kind of taken over. But there's still that door open if we ever come back to the talking. So if we ever come back to the Halftone Effect, it was the baby of how this all came to be. It's what started it. And I love it for that. And people come back to me and talk to me about that. And they say, Jackie was on before. He's like, dude, I listened to the podcast since the beginning. I think Spedsy even, for a time there was listening to the podcast back in the early days. So that means something to me to be able to hear those people say, we listened to your podcast when we were getting our start. And it was the thing that kind of pushed us out the gate. That means something to me. I know that that's worked how I wanted it to. It's helped inspire people to go out and create their own comics, because it did it for me. It pushed me out the door to create my own comic book series, and here we are today. Yeah,
no, that's lovely, man, because they are, talking about like these sorts of shows. While we're talking, this is the chinwag, this is the fluidity,
Absolutely, yeah.
When it's tricky. Like, I've often had conversations with to get one guest and line them up, and then something happens, and then you've got to rearrange things, and then it's not just the one guest you got to change, but you've got things lined up coming down the road that you got to reel back in and try. So you're forever it's backwards and forwards. And I've got to be honest with you, when I was doing Chinwag. Because there's probably a lot of people out there wondering why Chinwag's not on every week. And this will segue into what we're talking about, I guess. Here's an answer for them. I found that, when you start, you're like, wow, yeah, man, every week. And then, you're about 12 episodes in and you're like, every week, and oh man, it's like, what, oh dude, I need a break, it's tricky as hell, because you're working, you're drawing, you got a life, you're trying to have a balance, and I love with the thing is with Chinwaggin from the podcast that I heard of yours is I always found Chinwag's gestation, I guess, came from being part of live streams and that. and creators would get, like 5 or 10 minutes of a little bit of info, and you'd be like sitting there going, and then it'd be on to the next person. And in the back of my mind, I always thought, like, I really want to hear the rest of that story. I really want to hear where that, like, person, like, went to from there, and that's why it's like with chinwags and stuff, it's like, man, it is what it is. It's like, if it goes forever, it goes forever. If it doesn't, it doesn't. The fluidity, to allow them to have their, to talk, because everyone, the journey and the story, man, is everything. It's not just the finished product at the end of the line. The tears and the efforts and the weights you lift, and then, like, for people, you got relationships, husbands and wives and kids. Like, I mean, there's a lot of give and take with this stuff, man. Like, for people to follow a passion that they're compelled to do, really. And for a lot of people, like, it's just an independent thing they do part-time. For yourself, it's like a full-on, like, this is what I want to do. As we can see, it's all motivating, every story. It's like, you stick to your lane, you do it, and you learn along the way. You take your bumps and bruises. It's good, man, like, and you pass on the knowledge. That's what it's all about.
Correct.
And I enjoy it, man. I love it, to be honest with you. But yeah, every second week, man, for me is nice, because like, it's just a nice balance. I think you gotta remember that too in life. I think is the balance of everything, mate. Because you can probably run fast and burn down real quick, man. Even if your intentions are for the best, So I'm looking at it these days as a marathon, man, as opposed to, like, 100-meter sprint, man. So enjoy the moment, like these moments, man. You enjoy them more, I find, and you don't have as much when it's very, very regular, you sort of don't appreciate. And burnout, what's that? I know. That man's a machine. But you do appreciate them more, man. And you bring more energy and passion and love, like, to what you're talking about and stuff, and, like, listening to people's stories. And that's what I think is a great thing. But like, respect with your podcast, because I do know a lot of people used to listen to them. The one that I caught a couple of years back was, the one that sticks out in my mind, but I used to, while I was drawing, listen to them as well, was the Dave Dye one. And from memory, that's the first time that I'd actually heard Dave Dye speak and talk about, like, what he was doing, because I'd met him here and there on live. Appreciated his artwork, but hadn't actually, had any idea what the man was about. And when I heard that podcast, I was like, I like that fella, man. And still is. I haven't seen Dave in a while. So hello, Dave. How are you, mate?
Well, that's the thing. It's meant to do that. It's meant to connect people. And over the years, I've found that there's been people that I've talked to within the industry, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we knew that person growing up. He taught me how to draw." Or, that person, I tabled next to him at a convention, and we had a great time, and it was great to hear him talk about what he's been doing since the last time I saw him. Like, there's always something that will come back up, and that's what I loved about it. Again, you are right. Like, I think by the end of it, I was recording 6 episodes a year. In the last 3 seasons of it, I just recorded 6 to 8 episodes back to back, one night after another, and it was grueling, because you got to do your research. You got to read their comics. You got to, and as you've got to do your research about the creator that comes on, at least know what they've been working on and what they have. And you've got to go in editing. You have to edit the podcast, and you got to do the promotion for it. And so it was a day's worth of work, and you mix that in with comic books and your daytime job and family and socializing. It was intense. So, look. Well,
see, the whole idea of editing things, man, never really appealed to me. Hey, buddy, how are you, Dave? Love you. Love that guy. As they say on the Friday night drink and draw. Champion artist too. The one thing, what was I going to say? Before Dave Dye so affectionately said g'day. This is where my brain goes. And we'll come back to it. It'll come back. It'll come back. It always does. But I am getting older. I remember things a week later. I'll ring you up one day and go, Kieran, this is what I'm going to talk about.
Just flick it to me, I'll answer.
Man, I don't want to know about editing. I just
dude.
You just take the mistakes and the hits as you get them, man. You just got to. I don't know. It's about the risk.
Yeah.
That's half of the beauty of it.
You say that, but then you go into editing.
But it's like, what do you do about it?
Well, yeah, you hear some stuff on it, you're like, oh god. What ask that question? Or someone who's a little bit nervous and their first time doing a podcast, you get lots of ums and ahs. So, I like to listen to a podcast, any good podcast, but one that's got good editing. I was like, I'll make sure it's done properly.
Yeah.
Can't help that. So yeah, look, it was a labor of love. Labor of love. And I do miss it. I do miss being able to talk to the guests and talk to people within the industry. So look, it's on hiatus. It's not saying it won't come back, but you've got chinwag. So I mean, you've carried the torch now. You carry the torch for Halftone Production.
Yeah, trying. We'll see how we go. There's man. I don't, honestly, Kieran, I don't even know what I was thinking when I started this, man. It seemed like a good idea one day, I had this
Isn't that
idea.
what we say at comics?
Maybe, I don't know. Actually, you're probably right, but it was more, I know it would sound really strange, man, but because... Yes, to sell comic books, no doubt. I'd be absolutely bullshitting to you if, like I said, it wasn't, that's a part of it, Part of it also was the fact that what I said to you earlier, I just wanted to give an avenue for people to tell their stories, and because I'm interested, in them. And I figured if I'm interested, where there's one, there's two. Where there's two, there's four. So it builds like that. The other thing is, I'd met so many people that I admired that I thought didn't have the opportunity to fully tell their story. You know what I mean? Like the first episode of Chinwag that I ever did was with Ryan Vella. Now, whether you know Ryan Vella or not, I mean, this is a dude that, man, beast of an artist, and he has been doing this stuff since 1993, 1994, mate. You know what I mean? He's out there in the world just churning through artwork and comics and minis and doing everything. And it was like, man, this dude's someone's got to talk to this fella, other than me, and it started from that, man, and then just slowly but surely I started just really enjoying it. And obviously meeting more people through it and getting, I suppose I'm getting a little bit more comfortable at it as you understand what it's like. And really, I guess to a certain extent, Kieran, my love of chinwag and what stories that I can help pull out of the guests that are on there has to a certain extent, I guess, jumped up the scale of love for me over my drawing and comic books at the moment, man. So strange way of going about things, but I'm very lucky, man, and very grateful to be able to do this, and meet people, like yourself and stuff, and all the other 30 or 40 people that I never would have an opportunity to talk to, man. So I'm very, very grateful, man, for the opportunity. And the balance, that's what I mean, is every fortnight is, works for me. So I hope other people enjoy the chinwags and the talks as much as I do. Now, we've got our podcast that is on hiatus that may be coming back. And, but you're a busy man. You're a busy, busy man.
Yeah.
So,
we'll see one day.
Yeah, mate, we got time, man. We got time. Having said that, I've got time, and a plane will hit me tomorrow, or I'll get shot. No, what'll happen? My luck, I'll get hit by a rainbow lorry, man, be dead. In the backyard, tree or something. See you later. What an ignominious end to Leigh that would be. Strange things happen, I guess. So now you're in the middle of a gigantic project that we've touched base on earlier. So
Yes.
I'm going to give you the total floor here, man, because it's on Kickstarter. Tell people, how long it's got left, how it's going, where it came from. Working with Logan French, who, from memory, was just on the short list recently at the Ledgers of the Australian Comic Book Artist Awards, or
Yeah.
I'm not very good with those sorts of names, but let's go with the Ledgers. For Amphibie Noir.
Yes.
Actually saw a lovely rendition of Logan French's. He did a drawing of Rosie not too long back.
Yes. Yes, he did. Yes.
Little surprises. So I was like, oh, gives you a little bit of
Yeah.
Which was wicked. So hit me, man. Hit me.
It's so well. It's funny. Leigh the Swamp came about. It was probably a year ago. It was one of my old clients from my graphic design where I used to work previously, and they told me the story of it. It was a mystery of Leigh who lived out in Gippsland. She's about 60 years old. The story was, and she disappeared, and they've never found her. It was basically a mystery to what happened. There's been stories written, there's podcasts. So I've always loved horror.
Yeah,
I love comic books, but when it comes to the medium of film, it's horror. Easily horror.
What was your first horror?
My first horror was Evil Dead 2.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah. Yes. So, watched it around at a mate's house in an ungodly hour in the morning, and it just blew my mind. I think it was 10 or something. I was very good age. Yeah, good age to get into horror. Yeah. 1997, I think it was. Yeah, and it kind of lit the fuse. I was like, I always loved movies, and I was like, right, what else can I was really good friends with the people at the video store, so I had my own video card. So I'd go in and rent videos all the time. And so because I knew them, I was able to get things like Halloween, Scream, and Nightmare on Elm Street. I was getting all the horror movies, and I started to really explore that. So I love the genre of horror over all film media. And I thought, I want to always write a comic book story that is a horror. And, I've been doing it for so long. Well, why haven't I done it yet? Anyway, so I was like, stuff it. I'm going to do it. I've heard about this story of Leigh the Swamp. And I'm going to write a story based around this. It's going to be a bit of a meshing of the mystery of what happened to her with a kind of an 80s style horror, teenagers, go to the property and then all these things happen. It's a mystery, supernatural horror merged together. Logan had done Amphibie Noir through Halftone Productions. We produced it. I loved his art style. I'm like, this is the person I want to do it, because my art style was a bit too cartoony. I just didn't feel like it would work. And so I pitched the idea to him. And little did I know that Logan was a huge horror fan, but he was also a huge Evil Dead fan. So we smashed it out of the park, and we started talking about the direction of the story. And it was. It really is. And, I think we spent an evening just talking over Zoom, because he lives in Bendigo. I live in Wodonga, so it was a bit hard to be able to meet up at that stage. So I just sat down with him one night. We talked about all our favorite horror films, influences for the story, influences for the art, and it was really a match made. And so we basically dove in from there. He came up with a couple of concepts. I really dove into the script, and thanks to Stephen Cox, he came to me and said there's this great program called Match Labs by Creative Australia and the Australian government, which matches whatever you make on crowdfunding. They'll double it for dollar. And so he gave me that a couple of years ago. I'd been trying to get it for a couple of other projects when we did the Talking Bread and graphic novel format. And tried it again this time and was successful. And so it kind of pulled the trigger on the project. We were like, oh, okay, now we have to go ahead and start getting this ready. So Logan threw himself in the deep end. I had the script basically finished within 10 days. For the whole story. It's a 96-page story. We've got it written. We're just going through the final edits at the moment, but Logan's already making his way through the page art.
Yep.
And we had to throw it on Kickstarter basically straight away. I went to a Match Labs clinic where I learned about how to kind of publish yourself out in the world and kind of push yourself out there with crowdfunding. Even though we had experience with crowdfunding, it was kind of a really good eye-opener for me because it showed me some new things that we could be doing better.
Yeah.
I'm always willing to learn new things that helps promote the business and promotes the comic books. So, it was kind of all building up to this. And then, 14 days ago, we launched it on Kickstarter on Halloween to coincide with Halloween being a horror story. We're nearly funded now, which is exciting. We've got stretch goals in place when we reach our target goal of $5,000.
Yeah.
So for every dollar that we get from our backers, the government are going to double it, dollar for dollar, which is incredible. I think you get around 20 people who are accepted into this grants program a year, and we're one of them. So we are absolutely honoured to be a part of it. And we're not going to let this opportunity slip past our fingers. We're going to try and knock this out of the park. Yeah. And we've got some great things on offer. We've got my variant cover for it. We've done a VHS variant cover, which is a homage to the classic VHS cut horror covers with the boxing around it and the R rating and the VHS logo and the very heavy set font that they had on their box art.
The chewed edges, man.
Yeah, chewed edges, and deteriorating and aged. Yep, it's all on there. Logan's got his cover. We've got a very well-established artist, Marco Fontanelli, who is doing a variant foil cover for it. Yeah. I've got a glow-in-the-dark enamel pin from it. Logan's doing a debut poster from influence from Scanners, the film. We've really gone all out for this because it's such a big project. And thanks to this initiative, we're able to everyone gets paid, including myself, for the first time ever. In working on the project, which is something rare. It never happens. Bradley Aiden, who done Super 80 Battle Armor, he's lettering the project, which is great. It's basically the full house of Halftone Productions working on this project, which is really cool. The campaign finishes in 14 days. We're about, I think, $500 away from hitting our target goal. Yeah.
So you hit that little, because Kickstarters have predominantly got that notorious big start. You hit that little,
the lull,
the lull, and then come home strong and stuff like that, It's, you feel good about having your whole Halftone crew working with you doing it, man?
It's pretty incredible, it's something. Look, I've got a few letterers that I use, and I think it's kind of special having Brad on board to do lettering for this. He's an up and comer in the lettering world as well. He's been teaching himself how to do that, which is exciting. And having Logan on board to do the art, I mean, my God, we were talking about this previously, and having him there just to kind of send me pages that he's working on of the story I've written. And I'm letting him have free reign. Like I said to him, I said, this is a script, but I said, if you feel like you can bring a page out with a panel that you see that needs to be a full page spread, I said, go for it. I mean, the world's your oyster, man. And he's done that. Like some of the pages he sent me of the horror elements, it's incredible. Like I'm so excited to get this out into the world. Because horror, I don't know if you've ever dabbled in writing any horror, Leigh, but it's different to writing anything else that I've written before. It's with horror, I think you got to build up the tension for your reader, whereas in a film, you get a kill scene or you get a jump scare, whereas in a comic book, you've really got to build the tension up and kind of keep the reader hooked on that certain moment, and then build up to your kill. So it was an exercise for me to build up to that and kind of write a horror story. Yeah, Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it was tough. It really
Yeah.
put me through the works on how I write my stories, which is
Yeah.
great because I'm evolving as a writer, which you always hope when you're creating new stories, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yeah.
You want to kind of push that forward, but then to give it to the artist and have the artist take your interpretation and just knock it out of the ballpark, it's such a gift. It really is, and I'm really, really proud of this project we're putting out. I'm actually really excited to get it out into the world. I'm kind of cracking the whip with Logan at the moment. Like, come on, keep those pages coming, mate.
Yeah,
Does a bit of fan art. I'm like, what? Where's the pages? Next page. Come on, give me that. Give me that.
That's why when I mentioned that Rosie image, you were like, sorry, like, I struck it forward. But anyway, but that's the businessman publisher in you coming out, mate. You know what I mean? Like the editor, like you get that done. Don't worry about drawing.
100%. Yep. Look, we've got an end date. We hopefully will have it all completed by. We're still working on it, which is understandable. We only got the grant. We only got notified by the grant at the end of September, so we weren't expecting to get it. So to get it was a real welcome surprise. So we kind of had to pull the trigger straight away because we've only got a certain amount of time to raise those funds, and we didn't want to wait and sit around and wait for it. So we kind of had to go straight away. So Logan had to jump straight into it. And I had to get all the Kickstarter and marketing ready for it around it. So it's been a big 2 months, I'm going to say. 2 months getting it all together.
Yeah, for sure. But, like a project that's coming off for you from the sound of things. One thing, other than the book, for other people that are listening and stuff, because, like Kickstarter is, it's a fair way of getting your work out there because, I guess, comic book distribution and stuff like that, like has its ups and downs, like, so many, for all varying different reasons, man, like there's not as many news agents stock comic books. There's not as many comic book shops, unfortunately, like COVID, gave them a fair kick in the old, like Peebos, mate. And, like, hasn't helped out, but like for anyone else, mate, has not heard of this government initiative. Is it just a state government initiative, a national government initiative? Where would people go in future, like for themselves to, like put their own projects in there to see if they could, where would they go and how would they find that information, man?
Well, it's a national initiative. So anyone can apply for it in the arts sector. So it doesn't have to be comic books. It could be film, television, music, performance art, theatre. It can be really anything. And the great thing about it is you do a pitch for your project and the funding you're looking for. Now, you're not actually primed to use Kickstarter. You can use, as an Australian philanthropy website that you can actually go to, where you can actually ask philanthropists to donate to your project, which are probably larger scale. But with Creative Australia and the Match Labs program, they will back your project dollar for dollar depending on what you're asking for. So we're asking for $5,000 for our project, so they're going to back dollar for dollar for that. So it'll be $10,000 we'll receive in total. For anything we make over that, that's just icing on the cake, really. But if you wanted to go, if you had a $10,000 project, you would get, if you can raise those $10,000, they'll give you a $10,000 on top of that. So you've got to be able to make that by a certain amount of time as well. And I think it's really about kind of showing them that you can make that funding without just asking for the money straight up. It's a bit of give and take, I guess, in that sense.
For sure.
So you just go to the Australian Arts, Creative Australian website, and you'll be able to find all the government grants that are going for the arts community. There's an array of different areas that you can go for. It's just about time. You have to go there and research what you're looking for and reach out. There's plenty of opportunity to talk to people within the industry. and they'll give you insight into what grant you should be going for. I mean, Stephen is one of the people who were fortunate enough to be a part of it in the previous years, and he was actually one of the stats they were talking about on the clinic that I went to. They were talking about the process that you go through with Kickstarter and all that, and that was really insightful as well. So, it's intense, but if you've got the time and the will to do it, you can definitely achieve it. We were able to achieve it this time around, but it's a great program to be a part of if you can get your hands on it.
No, that's an awesome thing, because I'd not heard of that, and that's just like we were talking about before. With chinwags, it's like if you can get information like that from people that are willing to share, like yourself, there's other people out there that may have not heard of it either, mate. Because I mean, with just on the topic, when you said across say 20. Creative let's say.
Projects.
Projects. How many comics would have been part of the 20? Because I take it it's not 20 comics and 20 films. And
no,
it's 20 total. And with your pitch that you were saying, was that an in-person pitch, or was that your business proposal forward and send it off, and it goes through the boardroom, and you get a letter or an email saying approved. It
was a form that you had to fill out. You had to do basically a pitch to what your project is and why you deserve to have this money. You have to have all your funding targets organized, so printing and shipping and all that ready to go, and then you go through the process. So they said to us, I think it was about 200 applicants they had for this one. And we were the 20 that were selected out of it, which was, again, huge honor to be part of. As for comic book creators, there was three. There was actually three comic book creators. Renee Fitzer, who is a comic book creator and writer and illustrator. He was there as well. And then there was Philip Tarlson, who is got Future Tales on Kickstarter at the moment, who is also a recipient of the Match Labs grant. So there was three people out of the 20. There was probably, I'd say, about 5 or 6 people doing film. Whether they were directors or producers. Then was a few other performance arts. And then there was a few people who were doing music. And there was one person there that was an app-based app-based creator that she was getting funding research for their project.
Fantastic.
So it was
spectrum.
It was interesting to kind of talk to these people and kind of get their insight into the industries that they're working in as well, because we had time in between the actual clinic to talk to these people over the 2 days and get their insight, and it was incredible. I would highly recommend that everyone in the comic book community do a submission for it, because if you can get it, and if you can run a crowdfunding campaign to get your funding, it does make life a whole lot easier for your project. I mean, this is a pretty big project that we're embarking on at the moment. So,
and I suppose it, because all projects creatively are important and no less impactfully important. But this, I guess, gives it that little bit of extra, we've been noticed here by, to have this. So it gives you a little bit extra, up and comments, and a little bit more, a bit of a bigger tick, mate. They pulled the Sharpie out as opposed to, the old black ink bit, like you're sticking out. No, congratulations, mate. That's great.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
The old Gippsland girl that disappeared. Is that just the premise of your story, and you've made it all up? The rest of it, you've filtered it in.
I filled in the gaps. There's a bit of truth to the story. So we tell the story of the background of what the story is about and how it all came to be. Then we kind of bring it in the fiction of it as well, and the supernatural elements and the horror, and we kind of play off that and create our story. I mean,
Yeah.
Australia has a wealth of urban legends that I don't think they're not really touched upon. I mean, we've got true stories like, Wolf Creek is based off a certain story that happened here a few decades ago, and there's great films coming out like Hereditary and The Babadook, and you've got also like Talk to Me this year. It's like a phenomenon around the world. These horror films that are all Australian based, and comic books as well. I think they've always been there as a horror form of storytelling in comic books, but it's kind of really started to take off within the mainstream publishing and also within the indie community. Like there's a much larger horror comic book industry. So kind of bringing those two together, creating our story that's partially true story and also partially fiction, and bringing it there. It's been an absolute blast to work on this project rather than working on bread.
Yeah. Man, this is the journey, man. This is the beauty of the chinwag. It's like you've gone from telling us how you're a baker and, learning and applying your wares and halftone and the talking bread and getting to meet your mentors and how you're learning your business and improving and getting your grants and like using, the avenues that are there, learning
absolutely.
with your conventions and you're very free with your information, which is a lovely thing because knowledge for everyone is a good thing, mate.
Absolutely.
Housekeeping's no good, man. Like I don't understand why you'd want to see someone go through, like the troubles that you'd been through when you can just offer them a little bit of, hello Nathan, how you doing, buddy? Thank you for watching.
Hey, man.
And that's a beautiful thing. One thing I'll come back to is Logan. Just to touch base with him because you said he's worked with Halftone, obviously with Amphibian Noir, and this is a Halftone Productions question for you. You and Logan, how did he? How did you get together for Amphibian Noir? And was that a case of he sent you a proposal as you being a publisher and that sort of thing? You looked at it, or was he someone you'd met through the conventions and you just, you just clicked? And
it was through a mutual friend. So Bradley Aiden, who's the creator of Super RBA, Super Ready Battle Armor, Logan tabled with us at a convention back in 2019, and he was a zine creator. He'd been creating zines a lot longer than I've been creating comics for. And he had a comic book called Tofu there, and I was amazed by it. I was like, this should be a comic book series, man, not a zine. Like the quality of work you're putting into these is far beyond zines. Like, and I love zines. Coming from the punk background, I was like, zines are very much a punk rock thing, and you go to shows and buy zines. But I was like, this is a comic book, man. You should turn it and develop it. I'd love to bring it on the Halftone label and pitch it to me. And he's like, it's his baby. He didn't really want to do it at that stage, which I understand completely. And he said, but I do have another project called Amphibian Noir. And I was like, yeah, pitch it to me, man. So he gave me the zine, and like the premise of it, this is not taking anything away from what he's created. It's batshit crazy. Like these frogs and they're assassins, and it's got this real Blade Runner aesthetic. And I was like, I love it. Like, do you want to bring it on the Halftone Production label, and we'll make a comic out of it? And he's like, yeah, definitely. And I said, would you be interested in doing a graphic novel format rather than single issue? Because we're looking at kind of changing up the way we do things. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. So we had some contracts written up and kind of went from there. And, he's done some work for us on Talking Bread and In Purgatory. But he's just come into his own with Amphibian Noir, and it's great. And great friendship's been built from that too. Like, Logan's a good friend, consider him a real mate, and to have him a part of the team, and we've got a little Halftone Productions chat channel that we kind of jump onto and throw things up and talk.
Yeah.
And, you know, Brad and Logan have got their little podcast or live stream they do. They just talk about manga because they're both obsessed with manga. That's through Halftone Productions. I kind of just gave them the chance to do that if they wanted to. And, yeah, he's become a real part of the team, which is great. You know, that's what I wanted to do. It's not just about, you know, this isn't like, you know, the big leagues. This is just a small little production company. It's a group of people that all have the same interests and same common agendas, and we just want to build friendships along the way and kind of grow from there. You know, and extra on top for them is that, you know, they're creating the comics and I get to take them around the countryside and promote them at the conventions and sell their work to people they probably wouldn't have met before. And we've got them in comic book stores and all that. So, yeah, like Logan's a great contributor to the team, Yeah,
it's beautiful. And much like most of your favourite punk bands, no doubt, Halftone Productions is creating a lovely little chemistry from the sounds of things, mate. You can, you know, like make your friends and stuff like that. So, here we go. Shane's chucked up 90% funded. So come on, peeps, let's drive this awesome project over the line. And there's your Kickstarter address. I will attempt to read it. HTTPN. Anyway, I give up. You can just read that on the screen.
Just click the link.
Look, I've got you know, fingerprints on. So
it's a web address.
Yeah, it's the web address. Whatever Kieran knows, you can find everything out. Like it's look for it. It's all over Facebook. It's all over Halftone Productions. It's all over Kieran Jack. It'll be all over comics and stuff like that, and share it around and get it home, man. So it gets all of its funding. I think it's a beautiful rounded out story, Kieran, to be honest with you tonight. What you've spoken to me about, man, is your beginnings and dreams, and starting off from being a huge Norm Brayfogle fan and Alan Grant fan is immediately, you know, like, with me, because as I said, like, they're my Batman crew that I loved as a young fella as well. Seeing all the work that you've done, man, seeing the fact that, you know, even over the last couple of weeks, you know, like promoting the Kickstarter, you've been doing the run, man, you've been doing the tour, you know, like podcast and all that sort of stuff. So
that's the other side of it, I
can understand that'd be busy, man, the promotion side of things and pushing it all out and stuff like that. There's two big things that are on the horizon, and it's been kind of happening in the background whilst I've been doing this. So, pleased to say that I'm a little bit sleep deprived at the moment when it comes to the other projects. Whilst we've got this going on as well, so it's all part and parcel. Oh, look, I live and breathe it, so I'm thriving off it at the moment. Would you rather be anywhere else?
Absolutely not. I'm enjoying the ride. Enjoy the ride. Better than being stuck in front of a 300-degree oven on a summer night in a bakery.
Yeah, I can dig that. All right. So as we wind down our show, Kieran, I'm going to ask you the question, mate, succinctly as you can. Two parts of it. Little Kieran comes up to you at the convention, and he's looking at you. And he asks you one question. Why? Why do you do it? And why should I do it? Says little Kieran.
I think it's why should you do it? It's for the love of it's for the enjoyment and the love that you had as a kid. It's for the ability to express yourself through the art that you're creating, and to be able to tell your stories through the art you're telling. This is one probably art that I'll add on to it. Don't ever listen to the teachers or the people who tell you not to do it, because you'll get a lot of those people that will tell you not to do it. Don't listen to those people, because it's worth it. There are good times and there are bad times, but God damn, it's good fun. I love doing it. I love doing this. Things like this. Getting to talk to you, Leigh, tonight has been an absolute joy. It's part of the ride. It's not just sitting there making the comic or writing or illustrating. It's about the ride, and you enjoy the ride while you can, because it ain't last forever. But yeah, absolutely.
I love what you say there, because it's all part of the journey, and You're 100% right, mate, because if we listen to everyone that has ever said not to do something or don't do something, you just wouldn't get anything fucking done. So
Yeah.
if it makes you happy and it's the way you want to go in life, as long as you're happy, man, that's all that matters. And I'm looking at my guest tonight, Kieran Jack, and he's a very happy man. So Auntie Amanda, good on you for pushing him down that path. Mate, honestly, I wish you every success.
Thank you, Ray.
And one of the beautiful things about Chinwag is that a gentleman that is a mentor to me, Nick, Ruddy teacher, crushing dreams since 1873. It's had, doing live streams and creating comics isn't just about, the creativity on the page as well. It's also about representing yourself in a live stream sense or in public. And I've been lucky enough that, all guests on Chinwag, present themselves and are very nice people. Kieran, your enthusiasm tonight, man, your commitment to the cause, seeing where you've come from, man, being a young fellow with a dream and pushing on through, man, being honest with your ups and your downs, just plugging away, man, telling it like it is. Mate, for me, having never met you before, I'm going to keep an even closer eye on where you go with yourself.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
And
Yes, man.
all is good. And you have absolutely motivated me, man. And I hope other people feel exactly the same way out there. So thank you very much, man, for coming on Chinwag. It's a great pleasure. And beautiful.
Absolutely. Cheers, man. Like, it's absolute blast to come on and actually talk to you. Be on the show. Like, it's just, I've watched the show for ages now, so it's great to be actually come on and chat to you. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's great. It's the reason why I do it, man, is to help out and meet you, mate. So it's brilliant. All right, so that's our show. There's a couple of little things that we'll talk about this evening. Thank you to Bo and the guys over at Aussieverse for showing live streaming Chinwag on the Tuesday night. It's the first time we've done that tonight, so I hope it was a success with everyone. And I hope everyone enjoyed the show. Kieran, I wish you every success, mate, and Logan and your crew and Halftone Productions and stuff, and keep on plugging away because you're certainly motivating me from your output, mate. You're giving me a good kick up the bum.
Cheers, mate.
A good another happy birthday to Sis. Thank you, mate, because Comex and everything is provided for me and all the people that I've met through Comex over my time doing this. It's provided me with plenty of opportunities to meet people, create comic books, and be part of the community. And it's a great pleasure and great honor. So happy birthday to you, buddy. The last thing I would always say, and I always like to end this on, is mental health is a huge area that I put a lot of emphasis on, not just for myself, having been through it of late and over the last couple of years, but also for everyone else out there. The world can be pretty brutal and doesn't get any easier. Some people do feel isolated, particularly artists who can be introverted, or creators who can be introverted, don't have a lot of people to talk to, sometimes struggle to reach out to people. Now, I can definitely tell you from my experience that if you feel that you haven't seen any of your friends or family or spoken to them in quite some time, and you feel within your intuition or your thought processes that you should reach out, then please do, because a phone call, a text message can save a life. And in my case, they certainly can. I can test for that. So to everyone out there that's doing it tough, everything gets better. You just got to pull your shoulders back, pull your head up. I know it's a lot easier said than done, but there are people out there that give a damn. Reach out, communicate. It's the most important thing. Look after your people, look after your friends and family. Kindness does not cost anything. And at the end of the day, kindness is really the only thing that matters. So for everyone else out there, across the Aussieverse, across Comex, across Halftone Productions, Kieran Jack, thank you very much. And take care, be kind, and community is unity. See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
This
Cheers.
show is sponsored by the Comex Shop. Check out comex.cx for all things Comex and find out what Comex is all about. We hope you enjoyed the show.